I'm very happy to invite Dr. M.R. Vanithamani. She's the speaker of today's project, the post-war COVID-19 pandemic strategies for effective work-life balance on academicians. Really, the post was very nice, and I was attracted by the working style of Dr. M.R. Vanithamani, and I invited her for our program based on that occasion only. And I am very happy to invite her to this program. When I tried to approach her, she readily accepted to serve in this program. I am very happy to invite her on behalf of everyone present here. Everyone. Okay. So I want to introduce her also. She served in the academic and also in corporate field more than 18 years, and she has acquired various leadership positions like principal, director, and dean of higher education institutions. She has authored 5 books, 63 articles, and also under her guidance, got doctorate degree, and she received 20 lakhs of funding for organizing FDP programs from the government. She has the corporate trainer and also motivational speaker and resource person at 18 plus FDPs. And more diamond in her crown are she is holding 2 patent rights. I am very happy to share this information. She is a holder of 2 patent rights, and also she is a recipient of Indira Gandhi Sadbhavana Award and also International Business Council Award. She is also presently the Pink Ambassador for India Pink 2023 project. Really, I am very proud to introduce her, and also on behalf of everyone, our management, our principal, and our other participants, I am very happy to invite Dr. M.R. Vanithamani. Ma'am, welcome you.
Happy evening to one and all present here. Respected Dr. A. Subramaniam sir and respected Dr. Meena Kumari ma'am. It's really been a great pleasure for me to join with you this wonderful joint venture and the online initiative that both of your institutions have taken. And I would like to congratulate the organizer, Dr. K. Parani ma'am, for her wonderful initiative and her involvement. And I would like to appreciate the management of both the institutions who were ready to accept the institutions to go for a venture, for a program, and taking the teaching to the next level. Because so far we all were new to the online system, but now we all are united together and we are ready to listen to people share knowledge through online platforms. So it's a wonderful initiative done by both the colleges. So I would like to thank all of you for this wonderful platform and forum, and for giving opportunity for so many professors to come together through online and have a learning on effective student-teacher relationship, so that we can improve the productivity of the classroom and help our students to come out with their best in helping them to get into good careers as well as their personal life. So my hearty wishes and congratulations to the organizers as well as the participants for your interest and joining us. Yeah, now we are moving on to the session. So today, right, we all directly or indirectly been affected by COVID, right? So at that time, we all had a very sad feel inside us, thinking that, oh, what happened with us? We all are at home. We couldn't able to go out and join with our people. And we couldn't deliver our duties and responsibilities properly. At that time, we all had an option of getting into online system. Initially, we had our own reservations, thinking that, will it be possible for me? Because majority of us are all new to the system. When the generation Z is sitting along with the laptops and mobiles inside the classroom, we always felt that, why is this cranky fellows are always sitting in front of their mobiles? What exactly are they going to do with that, right? But now we are open-minded to even take help from them. They are the people who are teaching us what exactly the online system is. Many of us, including me, right? When I initially started my online teaching through webinars, my son has helped me, who is just a Gen Z guy. He told me, Mama, this is the option available and you can get into it. So when we are open-minded, we can learn from the students also. So today, irrespective of the qualification that we all have, irrespective of the academic experience we all have, let us join the session just as simple human beings, right? Just forget whatever horns you have as teachers, whatever horns we have based on the qualifications, and just let us be more open to discuss whatever good things that we have inside the classroom and how we are going to make it more productive, make it more effective, and make it more lively. That is the ultimate objective of this program. Before starting this program, I would like to openly ask a question to all the participants. So, according to you, what are all the problems or what are all the areas where you really think that, yes, student-teacher relationship is a bit complicated and we need to do something? Why we need to concentrate on better students-teacher relationship? Why we need to concentrate on better staff-student relationship? Is it really needed? Do we need to do? Maybe you can chat. Rather than unmuting yourself, you can chat. Put your answers in the chat. All the audience can keep yourself muted. Please keep your audios muted and put your answers in the chat box. Agnish Mary ma'am, please. Yeah, thank you. Yes, ma'am, we did. Yes, why? Why do we need to speak about staff-student relationship? What is the need for us to think about a better staff-student relationship? We are all professors, right? Always we question the students. So we normally tend to or hesitate to take up questions, right? That's why I've told you initially, just forget for the time being, at least for the next 1 hour. We are all not teachers. We are just going to be simple persons and we are open-minded for a better knowledge sharing and improvement in our classroom sessions. Yes, maybe generation gap, true. Better future because teachers are second parents. Exactly. Thank you very much for that answer. Generation really need a good relationship. Exactly. To have better study situations. Superb. That is an exact answer. I agree. Need to improve healthy environment in colleges. Yes. Guru Lakshmi. Thank you very much, ma'am. True. Exactly. So we need to, it is mutual, not only for the teachers, for the benefit of students also, isn't it? So we always wish to ensure that our classrooms are best platforms for a good teaching learning process. And as second parents, I really love that word. As second parents, we need to take care of our students, our children, because no, as parents, we send our children to schools and colleges with the belief that a teacher over there is sitting and taking care of our children in a wonderful way, helping them to come out of their ignorance and giving them real knowledge for their life and career. Same thing, some other parent have got the confidence in us and they are sending our children to us, isn't it? So keeping that in mind, we are getting into it. Yes. So many answers are there for happy teaching and learning process. Now we'll see what exactly we have. Exactly whatever answers you have said is there. Why staff-student relationship is important? So I have put few points to add up along with your answers. First and foremost thing is teaching learning. To give them the real knowledge that they want and better learning outcomes. Ultimate purpose of education is to ignite the young minds, make them think out of the box, to give them the confidence that they can fly with their wings and reach their goals. So that is more important than mentoring process. Now, as we have rightly said, we are second parents. Mentor them in such a way that they reach all their goals in their life wonderfully. So we will have the satisfaction that, yes, I have played my role as a best teacher always whenever we see our students in good positions in their, then mutual satisfaction that comes out of respect, that comes out of share, and that comes out of the way we inspire our students. So that happens only when you have a good relationship with your student. Then overall development of the student. So a staff-student relationship is not about teaching learning alone. It should help them to come out with their overall potentials, their co-curricular, their extracurricular, their strengths in other areas, everything needs to be cared. And not only their strengths, their weaknesses also. If they have any weaknesses, help them to overcome that also. That is more important. Then other thing is more important, private colleges, self-financing institutions, even government institutions nowadays, right? We are in an era of competition. We are in the digital era. So competition is very high and we need to do our own trumpeting. We need to tell the people what we do in our organization. So if you have a good student-staff relationship, if you could properly convey what is your vision and mission to your teachers and students, automatically the institution will gain its brand. You need not advertisements, right? So it is more important for your institutional brand building also. Then the last one is societal, the humanitarian aspect. May I request all the audience to mute your audios? Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, the last one is about the societal part. So in the societal part, what exactly we are going to the society, in which way we are going to mold the students as good citizens, good responsible citizens, more responsible citizens, so that the current social evils can be reduced. And whenever the education does its part properly and perfectly, automatically the society will get the right citizens and it can avoid all sort of negativities. So again, it is more important a better student-staff relationship. So when we could have better student-staff relationship, we will be able to ensure all these aspects. So in that way, yes, it is important. Is it that easy to maintain a staff-student relationship? No. Obviously, no, because we have so many factors that stops us moving towards effective our best student-staff relationship. So what are those factors? We'll see that now. So factors affecting or influencing the process of developing a better student-staff relationship. First one is nature and type of the institution, right? So whether you are a university or a college, whether you are a private college, or a self-college, or a public college or the government institution, so that always decides about staff-student relationship, right? Because your policies, your procedures, the nature of teaching learning process, your infrastructure, your facilities, your basic affiliation process, your vision, mission, everything which scatters around the staff-student relationship is being decided by the nature and type of the institution. Say, for example, if it is a university, right? So in a university, like your appraisal process is something different, and you don't have your immediate boss sitting next to you over there asking you what you have done for your class or not. And it is not that easy for a student to go and tell to or to give a feedback about a teacher to the higher official. But the same case, if it is a self-financing institution, there it is possible. You have a separate IQAC, you have a separate hierarchy for it. If a student is not happy, comfortable with anything, or if a teacher is having any sort of discomfort, immediately that information can be taken to the concerned people for rectification. That is possible. And second thing is affiliating university. So say for example, if you are affiliated with Anna University, It is a technical university where their system is different. But at the same time, when you are affiliated to Bharatiyar University, Periyar University, or Tiruvallur University, the system is different. So based upon the university system, the college also changes its pattern, changes its performance. So that also affects your relationship with the teachers and the relationship of this teacher and student. Then the infrastructure part, right? So if you have got proper classrooms with all sort of hi-fi learning, teaching materials or teaching gadgets with you, automatically your teaching learning process and mode of communication become much more easier. So your infrastructure plays an important role, the way you provide support, the way you provide assistance to the students, the way the teacher and student is connected, also being decided by the infrastructure. And fees. Yes, fees is also another important factor that affects staff-student relationship because whenever, say for example, if you take the case of government students, the students in government colleges, right? So they pay very less fee. They have very low economical background. In that case, the students, they look at the teachers as gods and goddesses. The each and every word that comes out of your mouth is a big thing for them. It's a big deal for them. The way they respect you, the importance that they give to the fee that they pay, even though it's going to be a very meager amount, the quantum of work and efforts that they have put in getting that amount by their own hard-earned money, that matters a lot for them. And the value that they give for that, and by paying that to the institution, the service that they get also affects your relationship with the students. That is always there. Same thing, you take a self-financing institution or a private institution where a student comes with capitation, right? He is paying around 10 lakhs plus capitation. If he comes to the college, automatically this attitude is something really different. It is reality we need to accept. That is something different. That also affects your relationship with them. Then policies of the institution. Irrespective of the nature and type of the institutions, either the management or the administrators of the institution, sometimes they play a great role in it. If they could clearly define the policies about the functioning of the institution, the communication flow, the hierarchy, everything, if it has been clearly done and it has been clearly adopted, automatically the relationship between the teacher and the student and the respect of student towards the teacher will always be good, always be better. So your policies also are affecting your relationship there. Then quality of teachers and teaching methodologies. That is forever, isn't it? Irrespective of the nature of the institution, if the teacher has got the real knowledge and if the teacher could present himself like a lion, friend, students growing knowledge, impressing them, influencing them with real insights, automatically students will have the respect for you. They'll get attracted towards you and they will come to you. So that again affects improves their relationship between staff and students. Work-life balance. Next is about work-life balance. Here, I just want to mention about the work life of the student as well as the teacher, right? Many a times, say for example, normally, we, for just for fun's sake, we used to tell whenever student get failed marks, and if we know that the student is to perform very well in the internal examination, and unfortunately, the end semester examination, if he didn't pass or if he didn't get pass mark, and if he comes to us telling that, no, ma'am, see, my mark has gone down, but internals have done very well, what will we say? Maybe the teacher who has corrected your paper must have had a fight in the morning with the better half, isn't it? So there comes the influence of your family, your personal life, isn't it? So when we are capable of managing our work and personal life properly, and we never allow our personal factors influence our work, automatically we gain respect and we could manage our system in a better way, and automatically the relationship between us and the students will always be good. And student side, right? Many of the government institutions, I would say, even nowadays, self-financing colleges also, Many children, they go for work in the evening. They take a part-time job. With their money, they come to college, right? So they compromise so many things. And with that, when they come to college, they may have their mental and psychological issues. So be able to have a balance between their education and their personal life. So in such situations, let us try to have an open mind, try to have a parental mindset, accept them and help them. Automatically, they will come back to you without you calling them. Then organization culture. Why am I mentioning it as culture rather than making it as an environment? Environment is what you said for the time being, but culture is what you prove, what you establish for the long run. And normally, students easily learn about the organizational culture from their seniors, right? Even before they join the college, right? They'll try to get information from all the seniors, people who have completed their course. They learn about us a lot than what we know about us, right? They'll give a proper summary about each and every teacher. That teacher, maybe teacher X, he's very friendly. He used to be very perfect in the class. And for any personal help professionally, you just go ask, he'll be ready to support. And if you really do something wrong, that's it, your day is done. He'll catch hold of you. That is also there. Sometimes it may go wrong. See, that fellow only here, you just give him whatever he says, you accept, he'll leave you and just be for 10 minutes, he'll be there in the class. After that, he's not going to care you at all. Again, the way they judge us, the way we fix our culture makes the students decide about the teacher, makes the student to have an idea or preconception about the teacher. So create a good organizational culture that makes the students to have respect towards and love towards the teacher. So that is in the hands of the administration and top management, also each and every teacher. The last part is the management and administrators. Here, in case of administrators, I would like to tell about the principals of the institutions, head of the departments, office managers, secretaries, and the management people, whomever is directly in touch with the organization. So if they have the culture of accepting and respecting the hierarchy, right, automatically teachers will have a better interpersonal relationship. If you know that, right, if a faculty is in need of a leave, you have a proper organizational culture where you inform your colleague, you take approval from your HOD, then you go to the principal, you take proper approval. If you follow the system properly, you properly communicate to all people, things will be clear, things will be perfect. There won't be any hassles at all. It will happen in its own way. If not, if you are adjusting in between, without communicating your HOD, since you have good relationship with your principal, directly if you go to principal, your student is watching you. He will learn the same from you later on. If he is in need of a support where he thinks that you won't help him, he will very easily bypass you. He will go to the next level and take the approval. So the administrators and the management are the people who sets the basic culture in an organization, right from the mode of communication, respecting people, giving them the power, overcoming organizational politics. If all these things are being clearly sorted out, automatically teachers will be happy and clear, and wherever they represent the institution to the students, they will always speak good about their head of the institution and head of the department and the management. So whenever as a teacher you speak good about you and the team, automatically you gain respect with the student community. And the student will also learn the same thing from you. And in future, wherever he goes, he recollects the same thing what you have done in your place, and he will try to implement the same, setting you as a role model. So these are all the factors that normally affects us either positively or negatively in terms of developing a good staff-student relationship. So with this, you can very well ask me, okay, you have these many factors, but what am I going to do? What is my role as a teacher? What exactly I can do over this? So this is the answer for you, right? So areas which are all not in your control, just leave it. You need not worry about it. There are so much that you can do. There are so many things that is under our control as teachers. So first let us see the things are the areas which were not under our control, which are not under our control. We'll just leave it because we need not break our head. We need not waste our energy in that area. We'll accept it as such so that we'll be happy, comfortable with the system, right? And then we'll move on to the areas where we can focus and we can really help. That is, the hold is in our hand. Okay. So first we'll see the areas where we don't have our hold and we need not feel good or bad about it. We'll accept it as such. Okay. So the first one is about the infrastructure of the institution, right? So ultimately, it is in the hands of the management who has to decide about the infrastructure. And if you are working in a government institution or a university or a public university or a public organization, where again the administrators will decide about the infrastructure. Maybe then and there you can tell whatever is needed for effective teaching learning process. But if that is given, that is really fine. If not, you have to identify your own alternative. That is possible because right from the Gurukulam days, right, teachers had their classes under the trees. They never had any electronic gadgets at all. They inspired students. They created all great emperors and leaders. So just that we all can do without any electronic gadget if we believe in our potential and knowledge. So let us not worry about the infrastructure of our institution. Second thing is about the fees, right? So my organization is getting this much of fees and they're not spending for this, or my organization is getting only little fee so they cannot spend it, or my students are capable of paying or non-capable of paying. That is not our headache. You can help the students in some way or the other. If you really want to help them financially, do it. If you are as a tutor or a coordinator given the responsibility of again getting them or making the students to pay their fees on time, and if you know that personally they have problems, if you want to really support them, yes, take it to the concerned person, just ask for their assistance. With that, you just
screening.
And next is a big thing, that is organizational politics, right? Many of the academic institutions and many of the academicians normally speak about organizational and organizational politics, right? So under organizational policies, if the policies are clear, yes, accept. But if the policies are stringent, you cannot do anything. And if the policies leads to organizational politics, yes, no other go. You cannot do anything, isn't it? So normally I used to tell to my people, whenever you think that organizational politics literally affects you and affects your performance and affects students, and if you really think that by exposing it to the concerned people, you can overcome it, please do that confidently in a diplomatic manner, right? And have the guts to do it, overcome it. But there are cases where your organizational politics will be a little scapegoating. People will try to make you as the goat for their mistakes, right? So if you think that that's not at all worthy talking about and not at all worthy answering about, just put it in the bin and forget it. It will have its own way of vanishing. We need not worry about it at all and don't break your head. Instead, you focus positively, channelize your energy in a positive manner so that you can give better outcome or you can give better input to the students, making them to come out in a better manner. And additional clerical duties, apart from your organization politics, the other important factor that makes teachers feel bad is clerical duties, right? You have got so much of clerical responsibilities apart from teaching. Many a times, teachers in institutions, they used to tell like 50-50 it has become, right? 50% of my duty is clerical and remaining 50% is becoming teaching. So in that case, right, try to use proper tools. Try to understand and try to learn proper tools which would help you to reduce your clerical duties. And whenever you think that certain things are not your part, maybe you can postpone it and you can prioritize your duties based on your teaching learning process, or you can take assistance from others to reduce your burden and keep your recording or documentation work in a proper manner so that you can reduce your clerical responsibilities. And the quality of students, right? It is not in our hands. Based upon the college, based upon the level of students in our geography, in our area, and how far we have built our brand, our organizational brand, and our fee structure, our infrastructure. So many factors, our placements, our teachers, our funding, so many factors decides about the quality of students. Normally, we always, whenever the results are not good and whenever we feel like things are not okay, we'll end up saying that we don't have quality students, right? That college is doing good because they get all preemie students. See, when you have preemie students, what is special in making them perform, right? So when you really have students who are challenging, who really are desperately in need of knowledge, desperately in need of support, if you could do something for them and make them perform, make them come out in their life successfully, that is real teaching. That is real happiness, isn't it? So whenever you get students who are of moderate or low quality in terms of academics, in terms of academic performance, or in terms of basic behavioral aspects, please take that as a chance. God has chosen you as a good tool to play a great role in the life of those children. You are going to bring in a real change. So take that positively and not negatively. Just leave it, okay? And the last one is assessment. If you are an autonomous institution, you won't have any problem at all. Yes, you know your internal assessment, external assessment pattern, and continuous internal assessment, you will do then and there. You can correct your curriculum, your syllabus, everything is being done by you. But if you are an affiliated institution, your final assessment is not at all in your hand. In many of the university examinations we have seen, right? So it is not in your control, and many times, no, you must have given your 100% to the students, but ultimately, if the results are low after your final results or semester results, you think that, or people may blame you, telling that you have not given the right inputs, and because of you the results had gone down. Please don't feel bad for it. And we ourselves must have seen cases wherein few teachers wouldn't have done 100% of their syllabus completion, but they would have got 100% result, isn't it? That may also have happened in many cases. Maybe you take, right? Whenever the students are really confident in your class, maybe they would have gone to the examination confidently without much of preparation. But whenever a student is not really confident of a subject, he would have broken his head and put everything inside his head and must have gone for the examination. Hence, the results will be different. But the knowledge that you had given to the student out of your regular classes, out of your mentoring and out of your care is going to be ever permanent, right? So that they are never going to lose, and that you can very well see in their life and in their placement. So be happy about it and just forget if you can't produce 100% result in spite of providing good inputs to the students. So these are all the areas which is not under the control of us as teachers. So we need not feel bad about these areas, thinking that, oh sorry, I'm unable to help in these areas. Accept it as such. Okay? Why? You have plenty of areas where you can really do wonders with your joysticks, right? With your magic wands. Now I'm going to show you which are the areas where, like a magician, like an angel, right? We teachers can bring in the real change, can bring in the real magic. Yes, these are 6 areas. We are the masters over here. First one is classroom culture. And the second one is the teaching learning process. Third one is our mentoring. And fourth is the area of co-curricular activities. And fifth one is extracurricular activities. And the final part is employability enhancement activities or placement activities or skill enhancement activities. So these 6 areas are the ultimate pillars of any student's life. So if we could really help them and shoulder them in these areas, automatically our students will always be running towards us like the bees running for honey to beautiful flowers, right? We'll also be able to give our fragrance to them. Now we'll see one by one as how it is going to happen. So first one is classroom culture, right? So how are we going to set our classroom culture? So while discussing this, just keep your mind in such a way that whatever is not in your control, right? You are forgetting it. So this, we are going to focus only as, this is my class, I am the teacher, I have my students, and inside these four walls, whatever is possible for me, I'm doing it. So I am the king over here, or I am the queen over here. So keeping that in mind, we'll read or we'll discuss all these points, okay? First one is discipline. So present day, this is more important, right? So we always perceive that discipline need not be taught in the college, right? Students have to be given with the inputs in the school itself. They have to come as disciplined children from the school itself. But that is not correct, isn't it? So we need to give them, we need to teach them the basic discipline right from day one. As soon as you get inside the classroom, before you begin your course to a particular class, teach them what it's all about. And make them understand the dress code. Right? How to maintain a decent dress code. Teach them. They need not come with a hi-fi, luxurious dress and style and mode of other accessories. Even if it is simple, just make them look like professionals. Make them dress in a decent way, in a disciplined way. Their haircut, personal grooming, cutting their nails, talking, their table mannerism, basic things. Please ensure that you teach them at the beginning itself. So once after telling them what is right and what is wrong, then do a continuous follow-up. Never think that no, it is not possible. Never think that no, I work in a government college where I'm getting my salary regularly. Whatever I do or not, I'm getting my salary, and why do I need to make a change? And no one is going to question me. Or even if I do this, no one is going to listen to me. No one is going to appreciate me. No. Whatever we get, we are answerable for that, right? We are being appointed for that purpose. In a private college, if you think that the college is literally pressurizing you to do it, there is a discipline committee. Your principal is asking you to stand in the corridor in the morning to check that the dress code is proper. Please don't hesitate. When your child is moving out, you are ensuring that your children are in good dress code. They are behaving in a disciplined manner. Do that with your students also. Next is etiquettes and mannerism. So etiquettes are for continuous, long-term, disciplined behavior. Teach them what is right and wrong. As soon as you enter inside the classroom, you greet them first and expect them all to raise up and greet you. And while coming out of the class also, you thank them. Nothing wrong, because it is a basic etiquette that we are going to teach them. And if they're not responding, ensure that they raise up and then they literally thank you in response. And the ultimate purpose of thanking or greeting during the classrooms are being given as a physical exercise. If we sit continuously for more than 50 minutes, automatically our physical system may not be comfortable. At least as an exercise, it is being done. Teach them in that way. If your students are rude, if your students are not listening, make it as a happy thing and make them understand the psychology behind it, the science behind it. Automatically they will learn. And the mannerism, right? Whenever they meet a teacher, whenever they go to a staff room, and whenever they meet anyone inside the department, let them greet them all. And whenever they are disturbing someone in between, let them take their excuse. And whenever they are submitting their assignments late, let them explain it to the teacher, take their approval, then submit. And whenever, and normally, first we need to set it as an example. Normally, many times forgetting this fact, what we'll do is, we'll always try to speak ill about our own team members to the students. And that teacher, no, she'll always be like that. You come to me, I will do. Please don't do that. Our students are smart enough. Students are smart enough. When a student is a separate person as a student, he will be good. When students put together, they will always be good. They'll always be naughty. Their collective ideas will always be mischievous because their age permits it. And when you just put any negative things in them, automatically they will play with that among us, among the team. So never ever give any sort of negative inputs about the department, about your head, or about your own fellow colleagues to your students. Always try to put the positive things about your teammates to the students. Let them also learn to appreciate the positives of others and not the negatives. So that mannerism let us help, or let us try to inculcate in our students inside the classroom. And next is about physical setup of the classroom. What is there for me to think about physical setup? There is a desk given and a bench is given and there is a blackboard available and a table available for me. And what am I going to do? What could be done? Yes, if any teachers have done any innovative way of making your physical setup inside the classroom effectively, please tell us. The audience can openly tell if you have any ideas, or if you have already done something, or if you want to do something, so that your physical environment inside the classroom looks good, effective, helping learning. What could be done? Maybe you can chat now. Give your answers. How can we make our classroom, like physical environment, more effective?
Chat your answers, participants. You may chat your answers.
Participants can put your answers. What could be done inside the classroom? What additionally could be done? Give some yoga practice. Okay. I'm asking about the physical environment, ma'am. What physical things you can add inside the classroom so that hand gestures. Okay, good. Kalpana, ma'am. Okay. Should be an interactive manner, your classroom. Okay. Apart from your board, bench and desk, what additional material you can display? Yes, posting charts, super. Traditional charts. Teaching with innovation.
Informative display.
Sorry, ma'am?
Informative display.
Yes, displays, information displays. Be courteous with the students. Superb. Just be courteous inside. That will improve your physical environment. You have a news corner inside the classroom. Yes. Walk around the classroom. Yes, to have better control. Yes, news in the classroom. Poster, employment, newses and other newses. Yes, respect the values of students. Wonderful. Sivagama Sundari ma'am, superb. You respect the values of them. Current affairs, super. You give them all information about current affairs. Super, super. Yes. Okay. So, like this, what we follow in our places, let me share that. What we do is, we have got, literally, you can have thermocols. In the thermocols, you can paste the fluorescent sheets and make it as a notice board. You can display it inside the classroom. You can ask your own students to do that, motivating the students to tell stories wonderfully, right? Yes. So maybe you can have a news corner where you can display news, and maybe daily news, one employment news corner you can have it, birthday corner you can have. So whomever has got the birthday for that day, teacher, student, whomever it might be, you all can just write a wish in a white paper and display it over there. Motivational quote per day. So a quote could be given per day, and an activity. So generally, whatever information you want to play in small games inside the classroom. Yes. So all these things could be done inside the classroom, make your physical environment comfortable. That could also be done, right? And then we have one more activity, four-corner activity. In four-corner activity, what we'll do is we'll keep blank notice boards. So whenever you want to discuss about any complicated topic, or whenever you want to discuss about, or you want to go for a decision making, no, you will be giving the problem and all maximum solutions possible, right? After telling the solution, maybe each corner you will display one solution. So you tell the students that the solutions are displayed in each corner, and whomever is okay with that solution or that answer, they can go and stand in that corner. Okay, so once all the students will go stand in all the corners, no, all of them, if they get distributed equally or in a different manner, then you ask each team, right from one corner, you ask them, they have to present it to other teams that their idea is correct. Okay, so they should convince others to come to their place, or else they have to get convinced and go to the other corner. So like each corner team has to do it repeatedly, and finally you will have one corner wherein all the students will be there and they will be accepting that as an answer. So that is also an activity that you can keep it in your classroom. You can make your classroom more effective. And changing their places, right? Whenever, like during lunchtime and all, no, afternoon classes, continuously take class, they get bored. So at that time, normally what we can do is just give them seconds, time in seconds and minutes, and ask them to change places based on odd numbers, based on numbers, or based on colors, something like that. Among boys, among girls. Maybe you can tell that all girls who are wearing green color should sit in the first row. Red color should sit in the second row, like that. Okay, so that sort of activities will make your physical setup more effective, more interesting, more attached. Okay, next is student relationship. So in case of student relationship, yes, you need to be courteous, you need to be friendly, you need to be more open. All these things are right. But again, as a parent, you have to be always strict with the student. So wherever you need to give them the care, give them. But at the same time, try to establish a safe line between you and the student, making them give the real respect to you. Otherwise, no, it will become more friendly and they will try to take advantage. You cannot control them. And delegating duties and responsibilities. So inside the classroom, like the physical setup, no, whenever you make news for the day or whenever you make the motivational goal, you make few students in charge for it. Okay, maybe from A to B, our students in the alphabet A will be responsible for the news corner for the first week, and students starting with B alphabet will be responsible for second week. Like that, you assign the responsibility to the students. Then and there, you check whatever they are doing is right or wrong. Are they effectively do it or not? And whomever is really doing good, just award them. Maybe getting a small chocolate, getting a small pen, getting a small book for them as a reward will always encourage them and make them more effective inside the classroom. And second one is about teaching process, right? So while taking class, first is you're setting your classroom environment in a friendly tone, in a comfortable way, in an attractive way. And second thing is the way you attract your students, the way you influence your students. First one is creating a learning environment. See, normally, you know, sometimes whenever you go inside the classroom, students may tell that, ma'am, last hour we had continuous quantitative paper. We are so tired, we don't want to listen to your class, right? So at that time, if you tell them, yes, today let us not have any class at all, but we'll try to have a discussion. Tell them, maybe whatever topics you had in the current affairs or on that day, relate it with your subject and make them to sit for a discussion for 10-15 minutes. So automatically they will get the energy to be a part of your classroom. Then go with the topic, complete some portions, finish it off. And whenever they are really energetic, on that day, try to go with the maximum portions and do it. So it is all about the magic. It is like a sort of cooking, right? So when you cook with love, right? You may have very limited ingredients, but you have all proper combinations and you come out with a wonderful recipe. Same way inside the classroom also, right? So it is not a hard and fast rule telling that, no, I have got this many things to be done. Yes, your logbooks are important, your course plans are important, all those things are there. Beyond that, mindset of student is more important, right? You can have, but if the student's level of understanding is not okay, or okay, accordingly you plan your classroom and create your learning environment in a wonderful way, so that the student will always have feel that if ma'am comes, she'll understand our mindset here. If we are really not okay, she'll accept us. And if we are really energetic, she'll make us to study. That confidence you give to your students. Then flow of the class. See, normally, you know, many teachers, casually we take our class. Like we don't have any flow at all. Just like that. So we go to the class and we finish it up and we'll make it. But normally, when you follow this sequence, no, you will feel much more comfortable. First one is, as soon as you get inside the classroom, just have a greeting and just have a look at all the students. Maybe 1 or 2 eye contacts will make them feel good. Give them a proper smile, a good smile, which really makes them feel happy about you. Thinking that, yes, you're happy for the day, your mood is good, you're cool for the day. They'll also be the same at that time. Then taking attendance. While taking attendance, no, I've seen many teachers calling them with numbers like prisoners, 101, 102, 103. No, even. They're all our children, right? They've got good names. Each name has got good vibration. So let us call their names while taking attendance with name. Please call. If you have maximum 60 students, it will take maximum of 10 minutes for you to complete the attendance. So call them with their name. Just have an eye contact. Check whether they are there or not. So just by looking at them and marking in attendance, within that second, you can literally scan them. Check their dress code, check their body language, and that's fine. They'll have an idea that, yes, my teacher is noting me. My teacher is giving attention to me. Do that. And second thing is revision of previous class. Once after completing your attendance, don't directly get into the topic. You just give a revision of whatever you've done in the previous class. Maybe randomly you can ask 1 or 2 students to start with, right? They may not be able to come out with all the points, but you can help them out. You just tell them what are the key points you discussed on yesterday, so that whomever have missed it, they'll be able to have a better idea. They'll come back, right? That is possible. Then slowly introduce the topic for that day. Talk about that topic. Maybe with relevant examples, relevant quotes, with relevant activities, do that. Then end of that, summarize it. Tell them the key points and summarize it and relate it as why they studied under that particular chapter, so that they can easily correlate it and they remember it when they go to the examination. So last 5-10 minutes, you try to plan for some activity, as some of our friends have said, conducting a small quiz based on the previous day's class or based on the daily news. Based on maybe each day you can have, one day you can have it as sports, one day you can have it as science, one day you can have it as technology, one day you can have it something related to general information. So conduct a small quiz. One person is responsible, a quiz corner to be kept. And the teams, during that the teams can answer together, give points to the teams. Or encourage them to tell stories, each one day a story in English. Maybe ask them to read it from a book and they have to tell it in the classroom with action, with proper body language, with proper accent. Ask them to tell. One thing, you're helping them to practice it in a proper way, their presentation skills. Second thing, maybe the way they involve themselves, and storytelling with a moral involved in it. So they learn the moral, they'll be confident of it, and they'll support each other. Like this, we have got so many activities. You can conduct some group activities, you can conduct some team activities, right? So you can have some activities for them and the class. So if your class of 60 minutes or 50 minutes could be dedicated, maximum you can spend around 40 minutes for your topic for the day and remaining for other activities. And always have an unbiased approach. Please, many of us as academicians, we fail in this area. We have our own preferences and we like few students and we give a priority to them. And one small request to all people is that never ever tag some student as bad. Normally, no, the first impression, whenever we find some student committing some mistakes, involving in any sort of negative activities, from that period onwards, we literally tag them telling that they are bad, they are worst, they are useless. Many times, I am a student counselor also. I counsel many students. At that time, no students who had gone for drug addiction, who had gone for alcoholic addiction, and we counsel them, majority of the students have given this as a reason. My teacher has tagged me telling that I'm bad. Why do I need to prove it to her? When she believes me as bad, let me a bad boy. And I just want to prove it. So in that way, they continuously involved in negative activities, proving that they are heroes among their friends. So never ever put your children down, never ever degrade them telling that they are bad. Even if they have committed a literal worst mistake also, call them personally, talk to them, help them to understand what they have done is wrong. Automatically they'll come out of it. And if needed, please involve parents also, if needed, if possible. If not, as parents, we can do our role. We can make our students to come out of that, and that they'll be there. It will be there for their lifetime. Once if they change positively, it will be there for the lifetime, and it is for the society also. So please follow an unbiased approach and encouraging participative learning. And many teachers know when you ask question in the class, right? When no one is answering, just we leave it and we'll go for writing. One is that. Otherwise, no, 1 or 2 selective students alone will ask, yes, Shyam, we are good enough, you answer. And this side, one Reshma will be the answer. And with that, we'll close. No. And when somebody says the wrong answer, if we literally tell them, no, you are always wrong, they'll never come out, right? Even if they give the wrong answer also, accept them. Tell them, yes, you have given a good try, but the right answer is this. Next time, try to give the best answer. Learn. If you prepare, you will come out with good answer. Give that encouragement. That will be good. Then, knowledge transfer. Always ensure that whatever we have inside is getting inside the students. We may be knowledgeable, we may be highly qualified, but that doesn't mean that we are capable of transferring it unless and until the student gets the information and conceives it properly and reproduces it properly at the right time, in the right place. Knowledge transfer happens only in that way. So please ensure that the students are getting the knowledge from us and they use it for their development. And suitable teaching tools. Many colleges, they have their smart classrooms, they use their Google classrooms, everything. But if we doesn't have that, if we don't have even a LCD projector, if we don't have even a basic OHP machine, so what can we do? Nowadays, almost all students are having wonderful media in their hand, wonderful tool, electronic gadget in their hand, that is their mobile phones, right? So try to give some activities based on that. And then try to do here. Now we all are getting accustomed with our online system, right? Important concepts, topics. You just put them the video, ask them to learn from it. They'll be much more comfortable, right? They record it. Whatever you present, they record it, they keep it. They again play it. When they can't understand, they use it. So make use of that. Select resources which are available for us. And next is evaluation and assessment. So normally, even while setting question papers, senior teachers know it very well, right? So whenever you're setting question papers, normally 50% of the questions will be set in such way that even a very average and below average student can answer if they have understood the subject and they can clear the paper. That will be the normal methodology. So we call it as K1 in terms of Bloom's taxonomy. So K1 is just remembrance. If a student remembers whatever a teacher has taught in the class and whatever they have studied from the books, they can get 50. And the next 20% comes out of understanding. It is not mere mugging alone. After listening to the teacher, after studying the subject, has he really understood? Is it really okay with them? Is it really practically applicable? So that sort of questions you can have in your assessment, even inside the classroom also. Define a term as remembrance, right? So what could be the case of, maybe if you take the concept of behavior, if you ask them to define behavior, he can define. So what is a good behavior? You explain with, or what is an acceptable behavior? Explain with an example. That becomes understanding at K2 level. Next is apply. Next 20% will be application oriented. So where this good behavior will be applicable. So where you need to have good behavior. Maybe if you have a behavior in temple, can that behavior be taken as good in an interview panel also? Or when you sit for an interview also, what is the difference between the two? Which sort of behavior is being taken as good behavior? If you could ask them to differentiate it, that is called as application. Always make the student to apply what you have taught to them. So make it in that way. And the last part is analysis, like your case studies, right? So give them a situation. In that situation, what is right or wrong? So they should be able to remember what you have taught. They must have understood the concept and they have to apply it properly so that they can analyze and tell, in this situation, so and so, what he has done is correct. What he has done is not correct because of this particular reason. That justification can be given by a student. So if we could have our evaluation in this way, automatically our students will be able to apply the knowledge what they have got with them, right? So this is about the teaching learning process. And the next one is mentoring. So mentoring, all of us must be doing it. So I'm not going to explain everything. So I've given the points here. So let us play the role of a second parent. We are not going to do our counseling and coaching alone. Counseling us, just making them understand something. Coaching us, making them learn or become an expert in a particular area. We do both. Along with that, we give them personal care. And it is going to be a continuous process. The day one he enters inside the college, till the day he moves out of the college, whatever care we give to them, try to treat them equally, try to develop bonding. This is more important, right? So whenever a student sees you, he should be able to give a smile and greet you, wish you. Whenever you look dull, he should be able to come and ask you, ma'am, why are you looking dull? Are you not okay? Is there anything where I can help you? So that needs to be there. And that comes out the respect and the way we inspire. Do that and be ethical. Right? Just because of the reason that one student has misbehaved for his age, don't corner him, don't penalize him, don't punish him. Many times as teachers we do, right? Our ego doesn't permit that. Since he has done that, let him suffer. We'll make him and we'll see him in his practical examination. Let me check how he's going to complete his lab. That sort of mindset we have. Please never ever do that. Ethically, for their age, they are small children in the court of a big man. And we as teachers and as parents, if we could understand that and help them to learn it out of our experience, telling them fire will burn if they put their fingers inside, because we have already had the experience of burning it. So if you tell them with care and love, I'm sure your students will always be yours. And next is the area of co-curricular activities. So in this area, I would really like to suggest something for all. Like maybe the first thing is about supplementary course. So whatever subjects you teach, based on that, give them the supplementary aspects, helping them to go with online free courses, right? Under SWAYAM, we have so many courses available. MHRD provides them so many free courses. Now even Tata, TCS ION, TCS ION provides so many free courses for the time being. They never charge. Students can easily just log in, create a login and get into the course, register for the course, and they will get certification also for that. They will gain good knowledge and skill set. Please expose them to that. And there are so many courses like Coursera is available, Udemy is there, and MHRD sites are there. Like this, so many courses are there, NPTEL courses are there. So these courses, you just make your students understand, share their links with the students, and help them to enroll suitable courses, which may be related to or complementing the basic subjects that they are studying. Second is input from magazines and newspapers. Many times students may not go for any magazine. Say for example, if you are a professor of commerce and management, Business World, Business Line, and so many magazines and newspapers are there. So please, you spend some time in it, and whatever good articles are there, maybe you can take a photo, share it in their WhatsApp. They'll do it. Or else you just mention the day or month of the issue and page number, article name, ask them to go through. Next day you have a discussion in the class. Automatically they will be interested, they'll go do that. And newspapers also have the habit of reading newspaper either in Tamil or English, and make them do it. Maybe this you can do it inside the classroom also as a newspaper reading exercise. I told you, last 10 minutes you can have some exercise. So give them a newspaper, ask them to read it aloud in the class, and automatically that will be a practice for them. And next is creative and innovative methods. Some of the creative innovative methods are, you can have word for the day. Daily, one student can come with a word, with the meaning of the word, and based on the meaning, they can create a sentence. So that could be read in the class, in a teacher's class, and you can display it in your word for the day board inside the classroom. So all the students will read that, and you ensure that in all the classes, at least one student uses that word and speaks something. Or you, while teaching the class, you use that word and speak something. So automatically, end of the day, they'll remember. So the vocabulary part of the student will increase. And next is news for the day. Make it as a regular culture. Nowadays, e-newses are available. So in the morning itself, you tell the student to prepare the highlights alone, maybe 10-15 points, and share it with all, including teachers and students in the group. So that will be a good thing. And create a daily code. So this sort of methods, you can have it through media, like through WhatsApp or through your regular classroom. Understanding student psychology is another important thing. Maybe the way you take it. And Gen Z is smart enough than us. Right? They are multimedia and social media. Like you just give all your assignments in such a way that they go for social media usage. Post your, say for example, if you are teaching them a commerce paper, a banking paper, give them an assignment telling that they have to go to a bank, they have to take the interview of a manager to understand what sort of duties and responsibilities he's having. Or just ask him to go for an observational study. He'll observe what is happening in the bank, come back and present. Maybe one can go to a national bank, one can go to a private bank, one can go to a cooperative bank, one can go to a rural bank. Give a team-based assignment. Or just an observational study. You send the students to go to a hospital, to a railway station, to a post office, to a police station. Let them go and observe what is happening over there. Bring those learning back to the classroom, relate it with your subject, make them learn out of it, and give them social media based assignment. Let them take photographs and make it as a video with their comments, with their voice, learnings, and present it. And maybe you can ask them to post it in their Facebook pages also, right? And second thing is about professional association. Just relate them or make them take membership with professional associations. Like your management associations are there, commerce associations are there, local bodies are there. Just make them take membership. With that membership, make them attend the programs organized by them regularly. One way it will help them to have a better networking. Second way it will help them to understand what industry is doing at present. And the next thing is creating exposure. For creating exposure, you can follow these sort of activities. One thing is outbound activities. Taking them out of your college premises to any of the places. Either you can use the service of external members. There are external members available. If not, if you can have your own activities, take them anywhere outside to a park or to a local area for a one-day trip. Conduct some team building activities, group activities over there, and make them learn something out of it. That is outbound activity. And next is operation workout. Operation workouts are little assignments that you give to the students based on practical inputs. The students have to go to a, maybe say for example, a market study. They have to go to a market, or they have to go to a mall to understand what sort of buying behavior people have got and what sort of selling process and maybe the consumers are getting attracted to, or what sort of general parental care is given to the children when they are in the public. So anything related to that. Maybe if you have your own projects, your research scholars are doing some of their thesis work, you can send your students to move out and do their activities. So anything normally apart from routines, you just make them think out of the box and come out with their own activities. And club activities. Try to have few clubs. Many of you must be having clubs, but normally what we suggest is based on your subject. Maybe if they are studying auditing, if they go for marketing, HR, finance, and mathematics also, statistics, and simple problem solving, aptitude. Like that, you create clubs and have some activities on daily basis with the faculty involvement, evaluation, and regulation. If these things could be done, your co-curricular part will be much more comfortable. And next one is about your extracurricular. So let's create them awareness about extracurricular, help them to do a SWOT analysis so that they'll get their potentials, assign them the responsibility of coming out with new tasks, assess their strengths and weaknesses, strength areas, give them more tasks so that they'll perform well, weaknesses, help them to overcome that, and create internal forums among students. Maybe a set of students who is good enough in attending quiz, let them prepare. Set of students who are good enough in writing papers. Set of students who are good enough in cultural activities. Set of students who can good enough in dancing, right, singing, or an orchestra, something like that. You put them together, make them work, you facilitate them, they'll be much more happy and comfortable with that assignment. And give them more opportunity. Many a time they may not be knowing as what is happening over there. So out of your network, whenever your friends or known colleges are organizing something, you take the responsibility of sharing the information with the student and getting approval from your HOD and sending them to the concerned program, and throughout the program assist them and help them come out with success. So it will be a good thing. Make it part of the class. Only during the event don't do. Inside the classroom, regularly if you do all these activities, your students will be much more happy and comfortable. And the last part is about employability enhancement or placement activities. So under placement activities, along with your regular classroom activities, you can have these following things. First one is happy morning session, right? So we follow this. In the morning, first hour, first 10 minutes, you can have happy morning session. In that, you can have simple activities like the following. Maybe you can ask one student to give self-introduction on daily basis, roll number 1, 2, 3, like that. So a mere self-introduction that they are going to give in their interview. First, ask them to put it in a paper. You correct it and give it to them. Let them do it as a practice in front of a mirror. Then let them come and present it in the classroom. So once if they repeatedly do it, their self-introduction will be perfect, right? Then a small yoga, maybe 5 minutes standing yoga or breathing exercise. Teach them few exercises based on your learning from Google, and ensure that first 5 or 10 minutes they do it. So daily morning, you have 10 minutes exclusively for your happy morning session, and you decide what sort of activities you're going to do, right? Help them in CV writing and group discussions, daily classroom, subject-based discussions you can have, and presentation, role plays, your storytelling, debating both in Tamil and English. You can do it. And last one is short-term internships and project activities. Even if it is not there in the curriculum, you can give it to them, telling them the importance of it and help them to come out of it with a certificate. And apart from your placements, some students may be interested in entrepreneurship activities. For such students, just help them to get the awareness, give them proper information, and help them in getting into the proper networks through your hackathons, your NEN, even universities are conducting so many EDCs and EACs, right? So even your college, you can apply for entrepreneurial awareness campaign programs with EDII, Ahmedabad, Gujarat. They provide funds for you to conduct the programs. So you can apply for it, get the funds and conduct the programs for the students who are really interested in taking business ventures of their own or startups of their own. So these are all the basic areas where you can help. But after doing this, what are we going to really do for ourselves as teachers to do all these things? First thing, improve your knowledge, right? We always think that I've done my PhD, I've done this much of publication, I'm getting 1 lakh plus salary, everything is done, I'm happy with that, I'm stopping. Please don't do that. Daily basis, enhance your knowledge about everything around you, your subject, your current affairs, and whatever the do's, don'ts, needed, not needed things. So you need to be a master than your students so that students will come to you for your knowledge. Then inculcate healthy physical and mental habits. Just keep yourself fit physically and mentally. When you are physically fit and you're perfect, your physical fitness and your dressing, your basic mannerism will attract students, and your mental stability will speak for you about your strengths, about your stamina, about your personality. Enrich your profile by going in for more knowledge development. Go for good networking with good teachers, seniors, people in other colleges. Be friendly and caring. Believe in nature. Whatever you do, you will get back. And always think big. You can do big. And never ever have or carry negativity. Always be with good thoughts and be good, do good. So by doing this, these are all the ultimate things that you will have in your life. First thing is job satisfaction. Even your salary doesn't give it unless and until you have it in your hand. So your job satisfaction is more important. And internal happiness are the sense of satisfaction that you have inside, beyond your salary, beyond your achievements. And justice to our noble profession. We call teaching as a noble profession, right? So we are supposed to do justice for it. So if you could really develop a good student relationship, you are doing justice to your profession. Then what you give to others is what you're going to get back to you, for your children, for your generation together. So be careful about whatever you are giving to your students. And by doing all these things, even some people in private colleges, no, you say that, no, I'm doing so much, but my salary is very less. I'm not happy with that. And my management is not at all considering me, not at all giving an appraisal. If you do all these things, and if you project yourself as the best person, you need not do your branding. Your students will do your branding. And all your competitive colleges are also watching you. They come to you to take you as the best employee of them. And you always leave a goodwill among your colleagues, among your teachers, among your friends, your superiors, subordinates, everyone. And you will develop a long-term relationship with your students and parents too. So ultimately, the last part is the credit that you get in your karma. In the hands of the Holy Spirit, God's account will always credit whatever good things that you do to others, to our students, to our society. So keep that in mind, and with that, you can automatically develop a good student-teacher relationship, leading to overall satisfaction and overall effectiveness. So this is about my presentation related to how to gain better student-staff relationship in an organization. Now I'm opening the forum for any discussions and questions from the participant side. And thank you for your patient listening.
Very nice words, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you.
Many important suggestions, valuable and important suggestions you gave me, ma'am. Gave us, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Participants, if you have any queries, you can ask, and also you may give your feedbacks.
Thank you, thank you. A very enlightening session. Thank you. Thank you all, ma'am. And if you have any questions, you can post it, please. Or if you have any suggestions also for others or good practices that you follow in your college, you can share that also. Nice session. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Very useful. Thank you. If you could use it in your place, I'll be very happy, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, one and all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for the opportunity. Thank you all the participants and wish you good luck.